Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what consistency can do in a year. And honestly, you are not going to become who you were created to be without what we're talking about in this episode today. We love breakthrough moments. We love inspiration. We love motivation. But real growth usually isn't that exciting. It looks like showing up again and again and again and again, not just for yourself, but for others, even when you don't feel like it. John Maxwell says motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. And honestly, I think this is one of the hardest laws of growth that for people to actually live out consistently. Because most people don't fail because they lack talent, fail because they lack opportunity. They don't fail because nobody supported them. A lot of people fail because they never stay consistent long enough to see themselves become who God has created them to be. And this isn't easy for anyone in the beginning. This challenges everyone. This challenges me too. Living with chronic pain every day can make every day a challenge. And we don't get rewards for showing up in the beginning. So especially when you're living with a circumstance outside of your control, consistency can seem like an impossibility. But over time, those consistent positive actions start to show amazing results. For the last 5 years, I've lived with chronic pain. I have a condition called muscular dystonia. And honestly, if my life was built on how I felt, I would have collapsed a long time ago. Or I should say, when I did collapse, I would have stayed down. There have been days when I haven't been all that inspired. Days I felt exhausted from the pain. Days I questioned everything. Like, God, why me? Why is this happening to me? What has kept me going, though, hasn't been constantly feeling like doing the hard thing, but has been consistency. Consistent in growing my faith in God, consistent in growing myself, and consistent in growing others. Consistency reinforces your vision and your values. What you consistently do eventually shapes who you become. That means eventually your habits put your values on display for everyone to see. Your habits are like a billboard for your values. And I think this is where most people misunderstand personal growth. Because we want our lives to be transformed overnight. We want that one breakthrough Instagram moment. We want that one breakthrough prayer. Now that is answered, my life is so simple and easy, right? You want to make that one breakthrough decision that changes everything for the better. But no amount of true growth happens quickly. It happens gradually because consistency compounds. Small decisions repeated daily can determine the direction of your life. The thing is, though, most people quit before consistency has time to do its work. And honestly, this is one of the reasons I structured the Pursuer Circle the way that I did. It's not just random motivational Zoom calls once a week. It's 8 weeks of intentional, consistent growth alongside others who are growing right alongside you and are going to hold you accountable. Because there's something powerful about putting yourself in an environment where growth is reinforced consistently. I've seen what consistent growth can do in a person. If you actually apply even of what we discuss, if you apply it consistently, your life will not stay the same. The problem is not that most people are incapable of growth. The problem is that most people never stay consistent long enough to experience compounded growth. like whenever you put your money in a high-yield savings account. You get that consistent compound growth. Recently, I've been studying the book of James. Did you know that James that wrote this book in the Bible was actually Jesus' half-brother? That blew my mind. And literally in verses 2-4, he wrote this. He says, "Count it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and letting steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." James didn't say if you meet trials. He said when. He said when the trials come, to count it as joy because it's a testing of your faith. He says stay consistent even when you fall short of your values, even when life gets hard, to stay consistent. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that crazy? Like, I think about this in my life. Living with chronic pain, not every day is a joyride. But he says, count it joy. He says, count it joy because it's going to teach me steadfastness. Stay consistent in Christ. Be consistent in who you were called to be. Count it joy because it's producing perseverance. Jesus modeled consistency for us in many ways. But the one that stands out to me the most are the times he displayed the habit of, well, actually, I'm just going to read it for you. In chapter 5 of the Gospel of Luke, in verse 16, he said, it's written, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. I think the key word there is often. Even when life was super busy, there was so many more people that wanted to see him. There's so many more good things to do. They wanted to talk to him. They wanted to receive his healing. They wanted to meet the Messiah. But he withdrew because he knew the thing that we as believers needed modeled the most was to consistently spend time with our Father in heaven. The more we start to reflect him, the more our character will start to display Christ, and Christ will be seen through us. So for this week, I just have a little bit of homework for you. And with all that said, I want to promise you it's not hard. All you got to do is answer one question. John Maxwell has something called the rule of 5, which is, what are the 5 best things that you can do consistently that would lead you to your goal? What are the 5 things, the 5 best things that you can do consistently that would lead you to your goal? Just for an example, John's rule of 5 for writing 93 books, by the way, because he knew he wanted to write, they are read, think, file, ask questions, and write. 5 actions that he knew he could do consistently every single day and kept himself disciplined to do those things, led him to sell 27 million books. Because every day he holds himself accountable to read, think, file, ask questions, and write. So what are your 5 things that you can do consistently that would lead you to your goal? Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Pursuit of Calling Podcast Pursuers. Thank you. If you liked this episode, if you got value out of it, share it with a friend. Share it with somebody who is a person striving after God, somebody that is striving for consistent growth in their life. Share it with them. Tell them what you got out of it. Share it on social media. Give a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you listen to your podcast. Don't forget to also comment on YouTube. Give it a thumbs up. And guys, thank you for pursuing your calling. Do it well, and I'll see you next time. Peace. Wasn't bad. Okay, that's